In this video, we meet with two local Virginia City historians, Curtis and Ron Gallagher, and we sit in and watch as they plan for a presentation that they will be giving at Piper's Opera House about the history of Virginia City. We had audio issues with this video. It's easier to watch this video and listen without headphones. There is so much history that Ron and Joe share throughout this that we didn't want to lose the talk that they were having, so we've kept the audio and have pieced it together as best we can.
So I thought in the little intro we could note that there won't be quite as many items tonight as there were Christmas.
Yeah, or you could say, if you'd have come to the presentation last night, this is the dinner we had. And, and everybody, I didn't know you were doing last night.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then welcome to the Residence VC, welcome to the Residence Reno with a picture of the V&T. Welcome to the Residence of Sutro and Dayton. Your pictures of, Then what I did, what you suggested, we come back to the present, what a historic location this is, and the pictures you've got of B Street, and then I put in parentheses there. Did you knows that I thought might fit for the Miners Union?
Yeah, okay. And I'll show you how the pictures I kind of got laid out. By the way, good morning, Corey. I'm kind of a ne'er-do-well historian.
He's better known as Professor Curtis.
Or
Virginia City history expert.
Or
I'll fill in for him.
Alter ego is Epaminondas P. Stinkwater. You haven't heard that before? Yeah, and this is the Virginia City Relic. We give these presentations on a regular basis, and we kind of on hiatus this last year. But we've been giving these presentations at Gold Hill Hotel for a couple, 3 years before that. And so we decided that, Piper's had been after us to do something there, and they've got a bigger venue to be able to put at least a fair amount of people in there. And so we have agreed to have these presentations. Some people call them lectures. I don't like that term because it reminds me of being in college. And I like presentations.
Yeah.
And the presentations that we do are more, they're like a family discussion around a table sort of thing. I mean, we're up there and we're showing photographs from the collection. We're showing, we're talking about these various things that the photographs represent and so forth, about the history of the Comstock. And there's a lot of interaction with the audience back and forth. And so we get a lot of information. We learn stuff actually from the audience, and then the audience learns from us. It's our belief, and it's our belief that it's our job, since we have all this information in our heads. Occasionally it starts flowing out the ears. And we've done this research for forever, lived a lot of it, I guess you could say. That it's our responsibility to pass this information on. Mm-hmm. That other people need to have this in their heads. And it's sort of like buying another USB device. Yeah. So you're the next USB device, and you're gaining this information. So we're like the hard drives, and when we pass this out, it's all these little USBs out there.
I like it.
Right?
You're the mothership, and we're all the little alien crafts that are swarming to the mothership.
That works too. Yeah, the alien. Yeah. So we meet here at the roasting house on a probably a monthly basis anyway, and we've been known to be here for as much as 4 hours, and we'll get tourists. We would get tourists that they'll overhear what we're talking about, and they'll come over and sit and ask questions, or you'll see them move their chair around so that they can listen to us better. And we just BS, and sometimes we're joined by some other friends and we just BS about the history. So the presentation is February 4th at Piper's Opera House. The doors open at 6, and the trouble begins at 7.
Love it. I'll be there.
So
Good.
cool.
Good.
We've developed a significant following, oddly enough, and there's a lot of humor involved, a lot of razzing of the audience,
I can only imagine.
a lot of razzing of the presenters, but we have a lot of fun. And so that would be great. I think you'll enjoy being there.
Well, what we do now is try to figure out what the hell we're going to say and go over. Not that it's scripted, but
Right.
what are we? It's such a big. If you look at Virginia City, 20,000 people and the history. There's no shortage of material. It's how you get it to bite-sized chunks to talk to people that you don't want to teach calculus to people that are just trying to learn the basics. And Joe is a calculus mind. and how do we take all that material he's got and break it down?
Yeah.
Sometimes we plan these things out. Sometimes we don't.
Tell me where you want me.
Sometimes we just
You know what?
Get up and
Sometimes
start
that
going.
Ad-libbing is the best.
yeah.
Well, and that's really what.
And that information's all there, so we just go with it.
Well, let's see. That doesn't.
That was the sun in your eyes.
Can we slide the table? No, it's all matched. We could go to that table if you want.
Would that table be better?
Are you guys fine with moving? I don't.
Oh, hell yes. So, anyway, I guess we're to the point now that you and I normally get with trying to figure out how we take your pictures and apply some information to those pictures that can be absorbed in a short period of time by the audience. That
Okay.
makes sense? Yeah. So that's what I did here to try to match up some of the pictures that you're going to have with the did you knows.
Well, do we want to try to go in the order of the photographs that you've listed?
Well,
Because I probably have a lot of those there, actually.
bet you do. All I was
see.
thinking is once we did the little introduction about welcome to 1878, how you got up here, then, as you said the other day, B Street was the main street, and it has a history all its own, whether you go south or you go north, and that's kind of what I did. Okay, if we go north, we get Miners Union Hall with the original Territorial Enterprise office, of course, which burned, Mark Twain's apartment. And then if we go south, you've got the Worship Club, all of your did you knows. You got the courthouse with a ton of did you knows. The Sharon House today, 117, is the one where it blew up. The Monkey.
I didn't put this in here, but I thought about it because I didn't think of it as being on B Street, but it was absolutely. You know.
Yeah.
So let me just skim through these right quick, and you'll see. So this is the first one.
Yeah.
This is actually McGuire's. Okay.
Oh, it is McGuire's.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we go to Piper's, and then Saturday, April 10th, was morning, about 8 or 9, lively snow, storm melting as fast as fell. Senior Botio with his sleight of hand performance, illusionist, etc. So this would say, this is who's appearing tonight.
Oh, okay.
That we were talking about. So this guy's an illusion. So then there's the illusionist. Actually, it's not him, but it could be.
Yeah.
And just an original advertisement for Piper's. And then here's one of the contracts. This is the header on one of the contracts. that they would have, and this was for a presentation called The Evil Eye. I think it was a illusionist and a kind of a guy that just made, claimed to know the spirits and all that stuff. So then here's a little later picture of Piper's.
Well, it was still in reasonably good shape.
Yeah, and then later in the 30s, and another in the 30s.
Yes.
And then just a different shot. Here's the Knights of Pythias there, and then looking up towards it. And another shot, Piper's, showing how it gets worse and worse.
Well, and one of the thoughts that I had is that what we're really looking at is the evolution of Virginia City, where it's come full circle. That it was this great opera house, and then when I grew up, it was falling down, and Alice Byrne used to sit and let people go in for 25 cents because she loved the building to try to collect some
That's
money.
right.
And
That's
now
right.
we're back to the point that it's beginning.
Because I
original.
remember my mom giving me money to go up there and go in there.
Yeah.
And I used to go in there every once in a while when we came up.
Actually, there's a way in the back underneath.
That you could sneak in.
Yeah, statute of limitations has gone away. But yeah, Jim Leonard and whatever, we could go in there because he knew the secret way.
Oh, yeah. So that you got probably, one of the open pieces of wood or something.
Down
in the,
underneath.
that,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, in the underneath. So then that's the shots of the stage, and then different shots.
Go back to that other one, will you, for just a second, because that last one of Piper's.
So
this is just,
now you ask me how do I do that?
Oh well.
Backspace.
Backspace. Okay, and this is just the Relic. Most people don't know that there's a basketball court.
Oh, that's right.
Floor, and you can see the lines.
You can see the basketball court lines right there.
In the 1930s, my dad and Jake Lawler, who was a coach up here, and now Lawler Event Center, they played ball up there when the National Guard Hall wasn't available. So there were basketball games. There was a hoop here, a hoop back toward the door, and now that they've covered the floor to protect it, not many people know that they played basketball in there.
Yep.
So that's one of my little.
So, yeah.
Relics.
So we got. That's an excellent side story on that angle. We'll have to remember that. Don't let us pass it. And this is tourists. This is Virginia City tourists in the 50s, I would say.
Yes.
Going up on the stage. And then you got Piper's, and you got on the next beat with the courthouse there. See, here's where essentially where our office are for emergency management. So right now it's a harness shop. It was a harness shop at that time.
Oh, that was.
So we were actually, it was back behind it. But
wasn't there a bar there too at one time, Joe?
yeah, the Washoe Club.
Yeah, the
was
Washoe
there.
Club. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And I'll show you here. So if you're looking to the north, you've got the Miners Union Hall, the Knights of Pythias, and that sort of thing.
And is this the Clampers now? Because that used to be nothing but a front when I was here. It had all fallen down, and now that's been restored.
And this is all in the 20s. So then the Union Hall. There's an interesting story about this and its shape that I did a whole lot of research on. And then I actually repainted this. What does that look like to you? Just the shape-wise.
Or
It's
it could be, a crown
A what?
The Pope's hat.
That's true. But when I tell you what it is, you'll go, well, that's inappropriate to say it's the Pope's hat. But it's a beehive.
Oh.
And it's a beehive because the building was built under Nevada territory, Utah territory, right?
Yes.
It's under Utah territory. So the beehive represent workers related to Utah territory. And so I found other pictures that you could just see enough to do it. So if you look at it today, it's all been repainted. It's a piece of metal formed metal. I've repaired the formed metal, and then completely repainted it, hand did it as a beehive. So you go up there and you see it.
And the other thing about that building, miners union, and you've got some did you knows and all kinds of things relative to the miners and how they unionized and whatever. But they also had many funeral services out of there,
Right.
Including the Eagles Hall. And Delbert's father, which I did not know until I think I read part of Laura Tennant's article somewhere, that when he died in 17 at the Union Mine, his services were conducted out of the Miners Union
right.
Hall.
A lot of them were.
Yeah.
They also had a big library. It was a
Yes.
checkout library that people could come and get books from.
Yeah.
And all, you know where all those books are now?
Well, there was some thought about the Fourth Ward, and that's where they.
That's where they are. They're all at the Fourth Ward. Yeah, I think they're all upstairs in the Fourth Ward. So we got Miners Union. Then we're looking across the street
Yes.
at the International. In the International, of course, facing on the sea down here.
Yep.
Everybody stays there. They come across the street. Here's the C Street side, the International.
And you know,
And
one of the digressions I would make for just a minute there, if I have my glass of wine, is what a shame that building is gone. But they've just restored 2 buildings in Tonopah, and the Kleins, who own the tap house across the street, they bought that. They have restored both the Mizpah and the Belmont. And I'm just going on now, but if we had the International that could be restored, would that be something?
Wouldn't that be something?
Oh,
An International
God.
Hotel? Yep. You talk about the people would be standing in line to stay there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So from there we go to October 1914,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
gone. Grandma's Fud over here in IOOF building upstairs, all upstairs there. The Delta.
The Delta.
Yeah.
And when that was built, the first stores that opened that would be on the ground floor across the street, they called them chop houses. And they opened
right?
a chop house. 2,000 oysters they sold the first day. 2,000. Now, they didn't come from Donner Lake or Pyramid Lake or wherever those came from.
Weren't those are Carson River oysters?
Yeah,
weren't they?
Carson River. Yeah, but you know, what a story. What a building. And the other thing is that we lose track of the fact that although that
Yes, ma'am.
building burned down,
I'm up with
that
the
as
fun.
you walk down the street from there, the Molinelli Hotel.
Wait a
It's
minute.
still there. It was there originally, it burned down, it was rebuilt at the same time that the International was rebuilt. And Connie Carlson doesn't get enough credit for the fact that that's really an old hotel.
Yeah.
So is next to it,
Yeah.
the Candy. That was a theater at one time, by the way.
Was it?
Oh yeah. When I was a kid, we used to go there to the movies. You walk down, the seats were sloped, and we got to watch Hopalong Cassidy and Roy Rogers and News of the Week.
I love it.
And then Kelly Lyons then used that as his visitor center for several years. And of course, unfortunately, we've lost the slope. And up above where you used to have the projectors, which would catch on fire, and you had to have a fire extinguisher to put them out. Anyway, just rambling. Oh God,
So-
the hotel, Joe.
So then we have across the street the C Street side of Fredericks,
yes,
right? And so here it's at the U.S. Post Office. Later, the U.S. Post Office moved about 2 houses or 2 buildings or two or three doors down. It was right over in here.
this was the Silver Dollar Hotel? No.
No, this is what was later the Sky Deck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Sky Deck, and now the Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
You know, or
okay,
the restaurant
okay.
there.
Oh, I got it. I
Yeah.
got it. Was one building.
Right. The bucket's right here.
Yeah, on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's looking down from Piper's, and you see that, there. So, and then here's the empty space in the 50s. The empty space from the International.
And the garage across the street that Angelo then converted to the Bonanza.
Right. You just, you don't see it very well here. But then you go, and then I did, here's Piper's.
Yes.
And here's where we're talking about is B Street. This is C. So this is B. So I did this so that it can kind of make reference to, you see, now here's the courthouse up here. And so they can get a reference to where they are.
How big this place was.
Yeah. And I should have put it, maybe I should have a full-size view of it. Or maybe bring one of the big panoramas up there with us.
I think that would be great.
Yeah. So this is the D Street side of Fredericks. D and Union, the International behind it. Think how magnificent this was. Look at this is like a big city. It's like the middle of San Francisco. You got a 5-story building here and a 4-story building here.
Yeah, and I think you and I talked briefly. It's so funny when you're trying to when we're talking to people that they realize what a huge place this was and how many people. So we get all excited today when we have a special event and we have 2,000 or 3,000 people. Well, hell, back in the 1870s when there were 20,000 people plus in Virginia City, shifts were changing. There were that many people on the street night and day. Night and day, with buildings like this, with 1-bit bars and 2-bit bars. No idea of the people that must have wandered around the street on any given day or time.
So then there's just another view. Yeah. This is from further down the street.
Okay.
Down Union, looking up what's left. It's all deteriorated. This is what it did look like as it was coming through in the 90s and the teens, the 20s. And then you get back, you get Union, it's dirt, there.
That's a great shot.
So
right about where Julia Billet's was.
There's another shot that I have that would be that.
Background noise in here. We got to make sure you're like. I just wanted to touch you again.
Yeah. It's like handling a fine antique.
Yes, and be careful because it could break at any time too. Oh.
So then an early shot of the courthouse, real early.
Let me interrupt you for one, because one of the ones that I added for the courthouse were the did you knows that related to there were only X number of murders between 1870 and 1880. So this building, when originally and when it was reconstructed, had a pretty good influence on Virginia City in the broad sense of law and order.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Major impact.
And we had the gallows in the back.
Right. In fact, on today's weather report, I made reference to on this date in 1877. Peter Larkin was hanged in the gallows behind the courthouse.
Is that right?
Is that trivia or what?
Well, it's so funny because people don't realize, like I say, there was so much going on in Virginia City, including hanging people, and then the various groups would also drop them down the shaft.
January 20th, 1877.
Oh
Peter Larkin was hanged
great.
for killing a man in a knife fight.
Yep, that's great.
So here's the National Guard in front of the courthouse. I've got 3 or 4 photographs like this. Look at the band. So they're probably ready for or just decided to do this picture in front of the courthouse for a parade. They were probably in a parade. Here's the Washoe Club.
Is that? I've never seen that.
Burned in 1876. Let's see. I think maybe. Here's a little different picture of it. In the 20s after it's.
That's marvelous.
And that burned in 1876. So we know this picture is pre-fire because that burned in 1875.
1875.
And moved down. And the Washoe Club story itself is another whole story. That is opposite from what the public thinks that they know.
And you've got the did you knows we think that there were a jillion millionaires in Virginia City.
Yeah.
And there weren't a jillion millionaires in Virginia City. There were a jillion millionaires off Comstock money, but a lot of them were in San Francisco, is
Right.
what it amounted to. So,
In other places.
yeah.
See, here's another view of it back
that's
there.
great.
Yeah. So then we go, here's a view looking south. There's the courthouse, and Piper's is over here. This is that blue building, the apartments right
The
across
boarding
the street.
house is still there.
Now here's the parking lot
yep, yep.
right here.
Oh, that's a great shot there.
So this is a little further down.
Courthouse right here.
Courthouse is right there, right?
And so these buildings, which there are very few pictures of, that's where I had the houses, that's where the parking lot is.
Yeah, that's the parking lot of the courthouse parking
Multi-story.
lot now.
On
This
B
building
Street.
is still there, has
Yes,
been restored,
yes.
and is apartments now. That's that blue building across the street.
And this is just the back of the VCTC or the Crystal.
See.
Oh, that's
so,
a great shot.
So then, and then this is a little bit further south. There's the Marie building,
Marie Building.
and this is a parade coming south on B Street.
And the other thing is, this is the sidewalk, Millionaires Row.
Right.
People don't realize that was a hell of a sidewalk. It was not a little narrow board. This was so the wealthy ladies could walk down and not get dirty,
Yep.
not get their shoes dirty.
Yep. So Marie building, better shot.
And
There's
Marie,
another story about Marie. I mean,
a whole stockbroker story.
yep.
He made $1,000 to $1,500. He was honest, stockbroker. Not a lot of those back in the day. And he made $1,000 to $1,500 a day. But if you take that times 20 today, that's 20, 30,000 bucks a day he's making.
Yep.
And he was honest.
And this building was connected by telegraph to San Francisco, which then went to Denver, to Chicago, New York, to the stock exchange.
And you have the code for some of
And I
that.
have some of the code books.
Because everything was set in code.
Maybe I'll bring one of those too.
That would be great.
And so then you had talked about Sutro, so here's a little bit about Sutro.
and that-
There's the
yes,
there's
yes.
the ladies' cart for
The
coming
ladies'
up to
cart,
go
and
shopping.
you could pedal it or you could hook a mule to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So
see, I haven't seen that one either, Joe.
and this is a picture of yours.
This is back of the hat store,
Right.
and that's where my
Pioneer. Right.
is that what
Pioneer
what
Emporium,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
But it was
Pascal's
NC
hat shop.
yeah Pascal. That's NC Prater Grocery. My uncle went into that building in about 1978, and my folks sold it in 1964. And of course, all of this is gone now. But we used to keep a big horse truck in there. It all fronted back on B Street, as well as C Street.
So and then there's another shot in the truck.
That's my folks, and that's the old truck.
Yeah, I threw that in there
Oh,
because
good.
it's all B Street.
All B Street.
Yeah.
Oh.
And here's another shot that shows you. There's the water company,
Yes.
water company building.
And that's probably Connie's.
That'd be Connie's. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And this is where I argued with them about they changed the stairwell stuff, and I argued with them and said that it's not correct the way you put it, and they would not go with me for that. They said they didn't care.
Was not original, was it?
Yeah. This I need to move because this is also in Sutro with the wagon inside of it.
Okay.
And then I thought, the people that lived here are real people. They're real people. They worked, and they had kids, all the kids, and they take these are all miners or mill workers, and they had their kids there.
Now I'm going to throw another one in at you because they all have different hats. And have you not done a study that
Yeah.
based on where you were from, Irish, Cornish, you wore a style of hat?
Wore particular
That was
hat
your
styles.
hat, so you knew you were Irish.
That it appears to me, from what I found, that the population breakdown between the Irish and the Scots was almost 1-to-1.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was very close to being 1-to-1.
Well, I'm sure there were more Irish.
I think there
slight
probably
number,
were, but then you got the Welsh and the Cornish. But looking at some of these hats, I mean, you can the Irish style of bowler hat was a tall one, and the English was a shorter bowler. So you can look at some of these, and you can almost tell if they're like Central European in some of them. Some of the mustaches and the hairstyles are
And the kids are all wearing hats?
yeah, all straws and stuff. So here's a baby in their dog. They even bring their dog and the kids for the picture. You know, and these are hardworking guys. These guys are working 3,000 feet below the surface.
135 degrees? Ice bath every 30 minutes?
And the thing that fascinates, look, just to take one of these pictures and just pick a person or two and just stare into their face and go, what are they about? Who are they? What was their life? What did they do? How did they get along? So forth. And see, here's this one little kid here, somebody's son, got a cigar in his mouth.
Oh, God.
And he's probably 6 years old, maybe. But you look at just stare into these guys' faces, because the picture qualities are fantastic.
They're fantastic.
You can enlarge them.
One of the things that Joe and I do all the time, I guess, is where have all the mines gone? Well, we know that you wouldn't know it was a mining town when you drive in if somebody didn't tell you, unfortunately. Where have all the buildings gone? But of even more significance, and I don't know what the answer, where have all the people gone? Because there's an estimate that 400,000 to 600,000 people passed through Virginia City over the years. Ron James, I think, came up with that. That have some connection, families would have some connection to Virginia City, and now we've got 800 or whatever it is. So where have all the people?
I found another statistic this morning, because I started at 4, and that said, well, in 1870, there were 12 paid professional firemen. In 1875, there were 15. And in 1880, there were 30 fully paid professional firemen. How many paid professional firemen and medics do we have today?
I don't know how many.
34.
34.
Isn't that weird?
Considering the population then to now.
And the number of buildings.
But it's the same amount of firemen.
Yeah.
But you got better equipment, better capability, better training. So.
And were they backed up by volunteer units
Yes.
still?
Yeah. So behind that, you had like 18 different volunteer fire departments.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was. Now this picture. Remember this when we went out to find that?
Yeah.
Did you know? Did you know Virginia City or north of Virginia City had a professional enclosed stadium seats race course?
No.
Here's a picture of it. And Ron and I went out to this location and found exactly where this is.
Where is it?
This is out. It's in the area called Loustown, which is out in the north end of where the Highlands are. And we just used this skyline and drove around until we found that skyline.
It's too bad that wasn't on film, because Joe and I, the mountains are the same, but the trees, and so the perspective has changed. And we're looking and matching up these pictures, and
That would have been.
we found it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It required, as I recall, it required several margaritas, but you know. So that was the ones that I'd all put together so far. And that's 50 slides.
See, the funny part of when Joe does this and I give the color commentating, he would stay all night. I only stay till 12 or 1. I wear down. Because it's amazing, and then you get a question or you get a comment, and all of a sudden 20 minutes on one slide. And an hour to an hour and a half is sort of the mind will only absorb what the butt will endure, so you can only hope long.
But you know, as he was a school teacher, so he has a good feel for that. I used to teach at Western Nevada College, and I've given lectures and stuff for so long. I'm really adept at watching my audience and knowing how long I can speak for. So I've had people get upset because they thought I cut it off too early at an hour and a half, and or I've had people get upset because I didn't continue on and go forth. But I watch them and I can't, the problem is I can't see any cues. Nobody gets up to go to the bathroom. Nobody gets up to get a drink at the bar. They're just like mesmerized. And so I have to tell myself, check your audience and see if they want to quit now.
Well,
And then
yeah.
so we'll quit and we'll say, okay, we'll do part 2 another time. But they'll keep me there for another hour, for another 3 or 4 people talking history, which I don't mind.
We even tell them, maybe being an ex-teacher, that's one of our little things, that the rules are there are no rules. And so, you don't have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom, just go. You don't have to worry about getting a drink, go get the damn drink.
Right.
If you have a question, just ask it. And sometimes, like Joe said, they'll almost get mesmerized and you can't always read.
We want to do another one we've been talking about. People forget about, this is 2021. So that period of time from, I'm thinking, say, the 1940s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that's a 50-year period of a different history that Comstock that nobody knows anything about.
It was a reinvention. And we went from milling gold and silver to milling tourist pockets. And that is the ore body that came about in the late 40s and 50s, and that's what we mill today.
Yeah. Absolutely. So so we just have a great time doing this, and and it was driving us nuts over this last year that we could not get together and do a presentation. We were talking the other day about a drugstore that was here, Paul Coryell's Pioneer Drugstore, and I was at a garage sale one time here 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and sitting at this garage sale was two fairly kind of long and narrow books that you pick it up, and it's all of these prescriptions. Copies of these prescriptions are all in these pages in there, and so you can you can read the people's names and what they were taking these prescriptions for, and you figure you could tell who had what disease from all these prescriptions and stuff.
And it's funny as an old timer, because the other one, Joe, that they now have digitized are all the records of the St. Mary's Hospital from when it opened until it closed when the Sisters of Charity left in 1897 or whatever it was. And so, and it was all handwritten on these big
registers,
And so they gave me a copy, and what's fun for an old guy is I'll go down and see name after name that you recognize. Oh, Avancino. Oh, Sullivan. Oh, wow. It's like a walk back through history and who was in the hospital and whatever. So there is some neat stuff out there.
I had a guy call me and email me just yesterday and said, I was out digging around in my backyard and he came across a typical granite stone. He said it probably weighs about 80 pounds, but engraved into that stone is the name Art McKeegan, M-C-G-U or Q-U-I or G-U-I, I think it is G-A-N, Art McKeegan. I haven't had a chance to look it up in my directories yet, but I was talking to him and I said, I can probably, if he was a local, he thought maybe it was a child's grave, and I said, no, if it was a child, it would say Arthur. It wouldn't say Art. And so I'm going to try to research that and see if I can find out who Art McKeegan was. Because there were those mines, there was the Exchequer and the Fulton Foundry back in there, and a little bit further down. But there was there were several major mines right in there on that curve.
On the Grinders Bend curve. The Imperial was down there.
The Imperial,
Yellow Jacket. Just a quick aside, you have one of the things in there about the Yellow Jacket and one of the accidents that occurred.
Oh yeah, right.
And it's 1880, and one of my insider little jokes, Irish find it. I have DNA at the 3,000 foot level of the Yellow Jacket because that's where my grandfather died. Actually was decapitated. And that was 3 weeks before my grandfather was born.
Wow.
But yeah, you know, it's fascinating. And Joe had an accident, and 4 or 5 people died, and well, one of that was mine.
Wow.
One of the largest, this is one of Ron's stories, the largest, to date, the largest vehicle accident in the state of Nevada occurred in Gold Hill. And you go from there.
Slippery Gulch. And I have the number somewhere, but it was 60, 70, 80 wagons. They started to slide, and it was raining, and there were a couple hundred horses, and nobody got killed. No horses. They got bruised. But I always thought, wouldn't you love to have had a recording and listen to those drivers and what they were saying to each other? But it was, yeah, the number of vehicles and the number of animals and the number of people is the largest one in the state of Nevada, as far as we know.
Is that right on the curve?
No, it was actually, they went by the Gold Hill Hotel, and they started to slide, so it's more down where you go up to the Overland Mine, or whatever we call it today. Yeah. And they just piled up there. No control.
And you probably didn't know that that's called Slippery Gulch. Gold Hill is called Slippery Gulch because the mud from the rain and so forth, the mud would get so slippery you couldn't even stand up down there.
Yeah.
There's so many stories in diaries and so forth. And
Join us for our next video where we meet Joe at Piper's Opera House to do a trial run for the audio and video. And then following that, the next video will be the evening of the presentation that Joe and Ron give about the history of Virginia City.